I'm Dave Elliott. Thanks so much for joining me on this Sunday morning. We're going to start with gun violence in Gulfport. It was really unbelievable. 4 shootings happening in a 24-hour period. State Representative and community leader Jeffrey Hulum speaking out about what he calls a gun violence crisis. And it is a crisis. I mean, you know, people have these community meetings. We talk to heartbroken mothers. But the gun violence just continues. You have to be frustrated.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking and sad. You know, as much as all people do throughout the coast, especially in the city of Gulfport and these communities, to still have this lawlessness goes on continuously. It's just heartbreaking and gut wrenching. But it's something that has to be dealt with seriously. We got to stop pushing the buck. We got to stop being so sympathetic when these individuals having these infractions with gun violence, whether it be the victim or it be the shooter. We got to find ways that holds people accountable. And accountability not only starts and stops with the individual, but also in the home. We have to find something to hold the home front accountable.
You said something rather interesting when you talked about accountability. We have to be honest, whether it is the shooter or the victim. And I think you're saying what is the truth. Oftentimes the victim is involved in whatever leads to the violence, whether it be drugs, money, social media, who knows what it is. I mean, is this, in your opinion, kind of, I hate to say old-fashioned, but kind of old gang kind of violence, or does it seem just more random to you?
I would say it's not random. I say this is calculated and isolated incidents that we see brewing, not only through social media, but through certain things that happen inside the community and some of our local businesses. Just like the business that this place took place. This business is open at 2 o'clock in the morning. Why is it there? In the middle of a community with nothing productive coming out of there.
This is the Big Boys convenience store?
Yes. We need to hold people accountable.
Well, you can't mandate that they close before 2 in the morning. That's their choice.
We cannot mandate it. We also can look at the restrictions when you have certain type of businesses in certain type of area. If you've got a high crime area, if you look at what takes place, what goes in and out of there, also think about this. We had an undercover officer, some form of investigation going on at that same location. That's how the officer vehicle was struck in that area. So that must mean
there were suspicions.
Yes.
Emerald Pines, another shooting. How many shootings have we had at Emerald Pines?
Well, you know my thought about Emerald Pines, Dave. I would say this, that we need to shut down places like Emerald Pines. We need to redevelop them and make it a better housing area and better quality living for the people. Because right now, that place is a death trap. How many more families, how many more people, how many more young ladies, how many more kids gonna have to run for their life in the middle of the night and get shot and gunned down like rabid dogs in a place that's unsafe?
Wow. I've been to Emerald Pines after a shooting, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But then you're going to bring in the Fed, because it's kind of some Section 8 housing. You're going to have to bring in the state, because it's regulated in some ways by the state. Whoever the private owners are, who have a contract with the government. I mean, there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, but a lot of people who own these type of developments does not even live in the state of Mississippi. So
and don't even care.
They don't care, and they're not doing anything. Think about, let's go back a year when they had the last horrific shooting in Emerald Pines. They brought the owners down. They sent a security team. That only lasted for 2-3 weeks. When the city put up a certain type of situation to try to get rid of them, they want to clean it up, but they went right back to the way. So do they really care, or are they just for a money grab?
No, well, they're taking the money. And the sad thing is, at Emerald Pines, when I walked the property, 98% of the people were good people who were very concerned and wanted it to be cleaned up.
Yes.
Those are the ones who are suffering.
They suffer the most because people are taking advantage of the downtrodden. People are taking advantage of people who have an economic and family and going through crisis. Majority of the people out there are great working people, but we also have some people who do not have good earthly bones in their body to move into those type of environments in those areas, and they're not held accountable. And the people out there in those areas are afraid because some of them may be their family members, some of them may be close associates or whatever have you. But when are we gonna start holding people accountable? Little kids, elderly, and young adults should have the right to live in a free, violent, free society. We need to do something more with safety just to not talk about it here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Let's talk about what is kind of a controversial issue. And I remember when State Auditor Shad White brought this up, and I had him on the show and we talked about it. And he He kind of took it on the chin by the Jackson media because they thought he was being racist. He was talking about fatherlessness, not having male adult supervision in all of these families, and the Jackson media really took him to task on this. What do you think about that?
Well, my thing is, that's an excuse. We have a lot of people who was raised
You
by
don't
single-
believe that fatherlessness leads to these problems?
I truly don't, because I think it can help in certain ways, but we have single mothers out there doing great and wonderful jobs. We have community members, we have uncles, we have grandfathers who step in the gap. That can be something traumatic, but also that can be something that can be looked at from a mental health and education standpoint. If we bring dual families together, that will help in some form or fashion, but that's not the end all be all, because you can see a large segment of our community are raised by unwedded mothers, single mothers, and single families. They're doing a great job.
Grandmothers, in many cases, I see them all the time. At Walmart, grandmother with the young children. We don't have a lot of time, Jeffrey, and you're really giving us some great stuff. Do you mind me asking how old are you?
I'll be 48 next month.
Okay. Did you grow up in Gulfport?
Yes.
How has it changed since you were a teenager?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things changed from now. Back then we had what they called the Jump Out Boys, which is a net team who aggressively attacked violent crimes in our communities. That have went away. When we have our police force having a hard time recruiting and maintaining some of the best officers, this is why we had the situation we have in. We got to find a way to stand up our police force, give them the necessary funds they take to be good quality police, not just somebody who checking the block, hanging behind buildings, waiting until something happens. We have to give them the resources so they can be more proactive than reactive. That's what we have to do. And that's the difference between now and back then. We had proactive officers who went out. Yes, they
walked the beat.
They walked the beat and they was a little aggressive, but also we didn't have all these shootings back then. We may have violence when it came to certain gangs and certain drugs, but that was squandered and squashed. We did not have all these shootings and killings like we have now.
Really, one last question, Jeffrey, because we're out of time. What do you say to people in these neighborhoods, in these areas who are not talking to police, who may know something, and you touched on it a little bit, but they're not cooperating with police?
Well, one thing I'll say, and I'll tell you, get informed, get involved, because one day it's going to be your family. It's going to be you may be the victim, because you got to think about this. Information not shared is information lost, because the city of Gulfport has over 98% violent crime solve rate because the community are working with them. But we still have percentage that's not working with them, and that's why we have these mass shootings. This thing can be stopped, this can be prevented, because there's actions and there's things in place to show that this is about to take place. And we got to get together, we got to stop this.
Jeffrey Hulum, State Representative, thanks for coming on and being with us today. You said some very dramatic things, and I wish people would listen. More people would listen. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Dave, for having me.
Appreciate it.